Yeah, once I went to the edit, I actually re-edited the script a lot. No spoilers or anything, but there was stuff that's at the end of the film was actually earlier on, and some of the stuff with Sam Neill. So yeah, it's actually the edit that pasted the most.
I'm really excited to get to chat with you about Bring 'Em to Me. I watched it the other day, and it was such a tense and such an emotional ride. I really did enjoy it. What about Tom's script really spoke to you to want to help bring it to life from the director's chair?
Yeah, I just thought it was like you said, I thought it had all the right beats to it, and I was looking to do something different. I've done sci-fi films and action films, and this has a bit of action, but I also loved the characters, and it was quite simple in a way. It wasn't like overly written or had too many plots going on, where at the end you kind of go too much going on, and that some films like this can happen where it goes left turn and you kind of go, what was that? So I kind of like the simplicity, and also at the time, we were looking for something to do that was quite sort of contained, and this was in the car. Obviously, there was some bigger stuff. So yeah, I got the rights to it, gave him some advice on the script, and then within 2 weeks we had it greenlit. So just right place, right time, and then suddenly we had Barry, Rachel, Sam, all these amazing actors coming on in. So kind of pinched myself and went to work.
That's amazing. I'll dive into the cast in a second, but I did, since you mentioned the contained feel of it, I wanted to talk about finding the look of this movie and the pacing of this movie because a single location story like this can get sort of lackluster for some, but yet you keep it nice and energetic and punchy throughout, particularly with, the characters that you have. What was it like finding the right style and approach to these really dialogue driven, car sequences that really keep audiences engaged?
It sounds good at the time when it's like a contained story in a car. So once I got to shoot that, I had to really sort of pace it by having like lots of angles and lots of different sort of versions in the car. And then the script was probably a little smaller than what it turned out to be because I love doing things, bigger and that. So then I was able to expand some of the sequences with motorcycle chases and a few other things like that. That there was in the script. It was like one motorcycle chasing them for like around the corner, and then they pull up, and I was like, let's expand this and just make it just a little bit more, bit of oomph to it. And then when I got really what helped this movie the most was the edit, which I love because it's the final draft of the whole thing. So we shot this film in 16 days, which is like completely crazy for most people, with a cast this size and also the sort of the different locations because it's a road trip movie in a way. You got to go from here to there. It wasn't just like we could go, they're at a gas station, and that's the whole movie. It's like they got to go to these different places, and I had to like find the look of those different places to make it again that whole pacing feel that they're going somewhere. But yeah, once I went to the edit, I actually re-edited the script a lot. No spoilers or anything, but there was stuff that's at the end of the film was actually earlier on, and some of the stuff with Sam Neill. So yeah, it's actually the edit that pasted the most.
Well, done incredibly well. It really did. Like I said, it kept me engaged throughout.
Right.
One, I know that the Joe Pesci scene in Casino is a big inspiration for this movie, but I'm curious. There are other great single location movies like this, whether it be Locke with Tom Hardy or Sympathy for the Devil with Nicolas Cage and Joel Kinnaman. Did you have any other major inspirations heading into this movie?
To be honest, like I hadn't seen Locke, I hadn't seen the Nick Cage one, and when people start telling you when you go into it, I don't like to watch those. I don't like to watch the films I'm working on because I don't want to then suddenly become that. I want to make it my thing. So the only really movie that we were going off was just I watched the trailers and that's about it. So I didn't really I knew of them, but I hadn't seen them yet. So I wanted to make this my own thing.
No, I love that approach. That is such a great creative drive.
Very easy to fall into a trap, and I've done it in the past where you go, oh, this could be like this shot, and then people watch it, they go, well, that's just like that shot, and then you go, oh. Yeah.
Very easy rabbit hole to fall into. So I like the way you did it. Now diving into the cast, I spoke with Barry yesterday, and he had mentioned that you guys had actually been trying to develop something together prior, and then this just happened to fall into the place at the right time. What was it about this script and about Driver that you felt would be even better to work with Barry on than maybe the other project you guys had been developing together?
Yeah, look, Barry is like a fantastic actor. He's like one of the best out there. And obviously, when he reached out to me and we were having conversations about a project, it was amazing to talk to and hearing all the anecdotes from his career. Because I'm a big, I'm like Quentin Tarantino, right? I'm a film nerd. I love everything about films. So when actors sit down and they love to tell stories because they got amazing stories, I'll sit there for all day and just listen. So hearing all these anecdotes was great. And then we try and develop a sort of another film with him, another thriller, and we just plays like an everyman stuck in a similar sort of one location thing. And then for some reason or another, in Hollywood, a million reasons why things don't get made. It just wasn't getting the traction. It wasn't getting in there. And then when I got this script off Tom, and we did it within 2 weeks, Barry had gone off to do Bass Reeves, the Paramount Plus show. And so I was like, oh, well, I won't have to work with him. And then it got delayed. And he reached out to me and he's like, if you're still looking for driver, if you're still looking for this new movie, I'll give it a read today. And he loved it better than the other one. And with his Bass Reeves look that he had going on with his hair and his beard, it just fit the character. And I think he just fit the character really, really well. So that just happened. So that was a quick sort of easy turnaround to get the lead. And then actors attract actors. So once we had Barry, it started to then snowball with other people, which was great.
Barry does such a great job. And like you said, his Bass Reeves look carrying over worked really well for Driver in this movie. And you can't have Barry, you can't have Driver without Passenger and Jamie. And Jamie does such a great job to play that sort of motor mouth foil to Driver's sort of reserved nature. What was it like finding the perfect person to play that foil and to play against Barry for this movie?
Well, again, once I connected actors and I really, like the conversations, I always keep them in the back of my mind. So I'd reached out to Jamie myself after watching his Robin Williams little short that he did where he played Robin Williams from Mork and Mindy. And I heard, obviously watched his Star Wars fan films, and I'm a huge Star Wars fan myself. And I reached out to him, just said, hey, just want to chat, just nothing really in general, just get to know each other. And when the script came along, it was sort of a bit more Jesse Pinkman, I guess, in a way, Passenger. He was a bit more like, yo, we're gonna do this. And then it was kind of like he was a gangster with the hat on and the thing. And I was like, we've seen that. Like, I don't want to do that. So I had Jamie in my mind, and I said, how about we go a bit more like he's just an ordinary guy, just a nice kid who's just fallen in with the wrong people, and Jamie was actually kind of against it. He was like, I don't know if I can pull this off. You think you're casting right? And I said, I trust my instincts. I really think that you're going to be the right for this. And so he said, yes, obviously. He was like, look, I want to do it. He wasn't like, once I said, we got Sam and Barry, he was like, yes. But he was just a bit nervous going in. But it turned out really well.
So what was one of the big keys then for you as a director in helping him get that comfort in the role? Because obviously, like you obviously had your confidence in him, but what was one of the big key things that you told him to help him embrace the role and make it his own? Yeah.
And even though this was a really short turnaround, every project I do, I love to bring the actors in and sit with them for like a day in my office and just get to know them, but also then tell them my side of what I want, and then they'll tell me, their side. We have a dialogue between each other before we get on set. So when I was sitting with him, obviously he doesn't have kids, so that's one of the things he wanted to talk to me about, because I've got a daughter who actually plays his daughter in the movie. That's my daughter. So he wanted to know from a father's perspective, how would it feel being in a situation, having a daughter, and then suddenly getting in these situations where it's like, life or death, and how would you feel? So I had a lot of just dialogue with him about that, and then I let him meet my daughter for, we sort of went out for one afternoon, just let him play in the park with her and just sort of get them together of how they would feel as a unit, so he could feel that. So it was more, from him, I think it was more about that. He came in with his notes of what he wanted to do, this motor mouth thing, and Barry actually gave him a lot of encouragement on set, and we were sort of workshopping it. I'm very much an open director. I don't stick to script. I would be like, if there's a better idea, we'll do it. And Barry gave me some great one-liners that went in the script. So I'm really open to that stuff. So we're sort of workshopping a lot where Barry's like, hey, you should be like, my favorite movie is this, and really carry on. And then it all just, one thing leads to another, and suddenly you land on that moment and you go, that's the moment. So it's all that building block of having people together to work it out.
That sounds like a really rich experience and atmosphere on set. So I'm glad that you take that approach. And
Yes.
from talking with Barry yesterday, I can tell he greatly appreciates it as well. So what moment would you say then was the one that you allowed Jamie, Barry, or anybody else in the cast to really let it go and riff off of the scene?
Most of the scenes were riffing, but like early on in the piece, when Jamie is a motor mouth, that was just him talking about Batman, and that's just him that's him just doing it. That's him being in the moment. And also then later on, after certain things happen in the film, and he sort of has the opposite, and he's sitting there and he's talking about his father and all this kind of stuff. That was also again him pulling out things. I said, do it one more time and just completely just forget everything, forget the script, just do it. Action, and he just gave me, I love doing that sort of stuff because you get the right actor, you don't need to worry too much. They're just going to feel the moment. So him in the car was a lot of riffing. Out of the car was quite, had to be very, particular for the script of the set pieces. But yeah, in the car, it was him and Barry just being in the moment.
It's so much fun to watch them together and builds their relationship so well. So as a big sci-fi fan, then what was it like for you approaching Sam and talking with him to be in this movie and to be this really full of himself villain as he is?
Oh, it was great. Obviously I'm a huge Jurassic Park fan, so sitting down with, Alan Grant was, a moment for me that I didn't think would happen. When I was a kid watching Jurassic Park in the cinema for the first time. And we talked, I can't help myself, what was it like, and I've worked with Spielberg back before I became a director on his TV show, The Pacific, when I was doing costume and props and that. So I sort of I've been around these people. So I think it makes him feel a bit more comfortable as well, tell some stories as well. Not that I'll get into those stories. But yeah, some anecdotes. And because I'm such a big nerd of film, some of the stories he told me, I'd already heard them on behind the scenes of Jurassic Park, which was funny because I'm like, oh, this is the same story from the DVD. And he's like, oh, yeah, that's right. But yeah, just hearing this, and that's the most fun. But he was so gracious to everyone. Some of the newer actors in this film who hadn't maybe done much, I saw him one day taking them aside and giving them advice and saying, hey, I think you should do this. And they're like, oh, that's a great idea. And I was like, thanks, Sam, I really appreciate that. Like, he didn't have to, he just could have been like, I'll do my lines, go back to the trailer. So he was really gracious. And for me, it was the moment, hard to say without spoilers. There's a moment where it's very hard to say about spoilers. There's a moment where he came up to me and he said, I'll just be really genuine. He came up to me and he's like, hey, I think you should get a shot of me doing this. And then afterwards, me doing with feet just still. And I was like, yeah, we got a bit of time. We'll get that shot. And then a year later, we were in post-production doing ADR with him. And he came in and I said, okay, here's your ADR lines to re-record your dialogue. And he's like, I want to watch it all with you sitting here. And I was like, sitting here watching the film with Sam Neill, it's a bit, a bit tense. And afterwards, he's like, I told you use that shot. And I said, yes, thank you, Sam. I used that shot. So he remembered a year later. So I think he's such a great guy.
I love to hear that. I got to interview him recently, and he does seem like he's got that very cheeky humor, but it works for him. I love it. So without diving into spoilers, while also kind of, this movie ends on a pretty big note. Where it feels like it could go one of two ways. And I'm curious if there was ever an alternate ending planned. I'm trying to keep it spoiler free, but at the same time, I'm curious if you ever thought about going the other route that the movie considers.
There was discussions. It was never in the script. The script is kind of what is there. And as I said, I like the simplicity of it. And also without going the other way where something becomes a bit bigger. With our 16-day schedule, like, it just wouldn't have happened. So look, there was discussions, lots of discussions, but overall we just decided to leave it as is. And just, it's a bit of a swing. I was really worried all through the editing process of like, oh my God, is this going to work? People going to walk out and be like, it's one of those endings where you go, but so far, so good.
I think the ending works really well. So kudos to you on it. I see I am out of time, so I will get on out of here. But Luke, thanks, man, for taking the time. I greatly appreciate it. I look forward to speaking more about the movie.
I'm a huge Screen Rant fan. I look at your stuff all the time, so I really appreciate to be on here.
Awesome. Well, we're glad to have you and hope to chat with you again for your next project. So have a good rest of your week.